Hey, what's going on, Project Nerd? This is Q, and I am here live on the ground at Pensacon 2022, and I am with the one and only Guy Gilchrist. How are you doing, sir?
Well, I'm one and only because no one else would take the job.
You know what? I feel the same way. I feel like that's what my parents said a lot to me. It was like, you know what? We're the one and only because, we're the ones who got stuck with you.
That's exactly right.
Now, I have to say, anyone who is part of the Project Nerd family or fans or watch us out there know that I am a diehard Henson fan and animation fan. So you covered two very important subject matters for me, and I'm really, really excited to sit and talk with you. Genuinely.
Thank you. So what would you like to know?
Yeah, everything. Let's start at the beginning.
Okay, but let's break this down now.
Sure, absolutely.
Let's break this down now.
Yeah. So tell me kind of what was the genesis of your career? Like what was that moment that jump started you into the professional stratosphere of doing this?
Well, when I was 10 years old, I was homesick from school, and Walter Lantz was my hero, the creator of Woody Woodpecker and Chilly Willy and Pensacon and all that. And because he's on television, this was in the early 60s, and he would draw Woody, and Chilly Willy, and show us that it was an oval, and then he would move the oval, and then you'd watch the cartoon. So he was actually teaching. He had the heart of a teacher. And this was a big deal for a poor kid from Connecticut to actually, to have that to see. And by the way, you can actually go see those things. They're on YouTube,
Oh yeah.
And anyway, so I was homesick, and Walter Lantz was on a talk show called the Art Linkletter Show. He was a guest, and the Art Linkletter Show had a habit of having their address up there so people could send funny stories in. Well, I now had an address for Walter Lantz, so I wrote Walter Lantz a letter, and about 2 months worth of my absolute best times. I'm 10, and to the Art Linkletters with I have nothing.
Sure.
And anyway, he wrote me that, and it was on this beautiful, full color embossed stationery with Woody Woodpecker with a lance on a little white horse with Hollywood, California on it, and it said, "Dear Guy, you have a lot of talent for a 10-year-old boy. You try very hard and you practice well. If you never ever quit, I believe that someday you will be a successful cartoonist. Sincerely, Walter Lantz." And within 6 years, I had landed my first job with Whitman Publishing doing coloring books for Disney.
That's absolutely amazing. It's that little bit of spark, that little bit of
belief. It was a lit a fire.
That's amazing.
Because my mother was very, she was talented, and she was always very supportive and stuff. But you don't know how you don't know how you're ever going to do anything.
Sure.
But the idea that this man that got millions of letters would have written to me.
To you.
Yeah, personally, that wrote me and supported my art meant the absolute world to me, and that was really the start of everything.
It changes everything.
Yeah.
I think that's such an interesting dynamic and how that worked for you, especially considering, as I'm a convention goer, right? I do press for conventions all the time.
Yeah, and back then there was no way to meet a cartoonist or a comic book person. There wasn't anything like that. So even the idea that there was ever going to be anything, was
mind-blowing.
Yeah. Possible.
And that's why it's so exciting, because for me, here we are several generations later, and we have this opportunity to meet and talk directly face-to-face and have that interaction. And it's been, for myself even, incredibly gratifying to be able to meet some of my heroes, and has even encouraged me to work harder at what I do to continue that, because it's inspirational. So I can only imagine what that must have felt like to be 10-year-old you, getting that validation saying, hey, keep doing this, you've got a future.
Well, and that's one of it's also the impetus for me to do these.
Yeah.
Because, we now have, I'm 65 years old. I've been at this for 49 years. And so there are like 3 generations that have grown up on the characters I've been so blessed to do. And so I meet, parents that drew my characters, then they have their kids. There are grandkids sometimes that are, and they all want there are so many of them that just want that one little spark.
Yeah.
If they're trying hard.
For sure.
For me to say, okay, well that's pretty good, and now don't quit. And here's what you need to work on, and so and give them some support, and tell them a book to look at, and that sort of thing. And just hearing anything, them being able to chat like this. Had this existed when I was a kid, oh my gosh, I would have lived here. Are you kidding me?
Exactly. Now I have a question. Speaking of spark, I think that's a good parlay into a thought. Over your career, is there a spark of an idea? Is there something that you had that you wanted to get developed that never moved past kind of that initial phase? And that even today you're like, you know what, there's something I still am noodling on that I would like to do something with eventually.
No, not really. Because I'm kind of a doer.
Sure.
And I'm sort of a workaholic. And there are some things I haven't gotten to yet.
Sure.
But everything that I got to, and only one of 100 things ever actually happens.
Sure.
And then even if it happens, the public may not even be aware.
Sure.
The God's honest truth is that when you're in the entertainment business, almost everything is a pilot, and it's an unfunded pilot of one sort or another. And but then sometimes you hit something and you get lucky, and something leads to something else. But I've been a doer, and I would, for instance, I have probably 30 comic strips for newspaper ideas that I had not just floated, but you would do it in months worth of work, send it never sold to anybody, but that became a stepping stone to something else, to something else, to something else. You have to understand that the journey is the experience, and that is what you have to love.
Sure.
If you're only happy when you get public gratification or you sell something, you're going to be sad 999% of the time.
Sure.
And we never want that to happen. We want to have joy in what we do. So we have to have joy in what we do.
Have you ever had the opportunity to meet someone, so like let's say you were inspired when you were 10 and you've met tons of people over the years in the convention circuit. Have you ever met someone that went on to do something and then came back to you and said, hey, I talked to you?
Yeah. Many times. I've got a really funny one too.
Yeah,
like a left-handed compliment. But no, there have been a whole bunch. And I had a cartoonist academy for 7 years back in Connecticut. And also, I've trained, many people. I've had many assistants over the years in my studios. And so Mark Brewer, for instance, who lives in Pittsburgh, Mark has won every Reuben Award and everything that I've ever won. And he does the covers for Money and Wall Street Journal and all that. Mark started out sweeping the floors in the studio, and within 2 weeks though was working on Disney stuff with my art director. And it's because it's fire within you. But the funny one was I got a letter one time, and this guy's like a rocket scientist. Like really is a rocket scientist. And he's in like Seattle, and he's a rocket scientist. And he goes, I owe it all to you. He goes, so those Random House Turtle books? So I'm in 3rd grade, and all I did was try to copy you. It seems so easy. And I'm in class all the time, and I'm copying you, and I keep getting sent down to the principal's office. Finally, they call home and say, I'm going to get expelled. So my mom tore up all of your stuff. I never drew again, and thank you. Now I'm a rocket scientist working for NASA. And that was my favorite one.
And you're like, you're welcome.
I wrote him back saying, the pleasure was all mine.
That's absolutely wonderful. It's so interesting how you never know how your work is going to affect somebody, right?
Yeah.
You never know if it's going to inspire them to continue on the path. You never know if it's going to help them realize maybe this isn't for me, and you never know if it's going to make somebody a rocket scientist.
Or they say, this is garbage. I'm never going to buy anything with that guy's name on it again. Yeah.
That's so interesting. Now I have a question. Of course, we love to do normal interview questions, but I like to always ask just kind of one random thing. on a more personal level. And so
Wait
for
a minute,
me,
the rest of this wasn't random?
no, believe it or not,
Folks, this was actually scripted. I
And
know.
I'm so
this
sorry.
train wreck was scripted. Okay.
so I am wearing, and I don't know if anybody can see it here, but I'm wearing, I'll show it later. We'll insert a picture here. I'm wearing some British Knight tennis shoes.
Yeah.
And as a kid growing up,
Yeah.
my family we were relatively poor. And it was a big thing for me to see on television during the 80s. They always gave away British Knight shoes on all the kids' game shows.
Oh,
And
did they really?
I grew up wanting British Knights so bad, right? I was like, oh, one day I'm gonna get British Knights. Fast forward 30 plus years later, and I'm an adult one day, and I'm sitting in my house, and it dawns on me, if I want a pair of British Knight shoes now, I can have them 30 plus years later. And so I go to see if the company even exists anymore, because the last time somebody mentioned British Knights has been years. And they did, thankfully, very inexpensively, and I bought myself several pairs, and the first time I slid it on, I thought to myself, this is exactly what I thought it would be when I was a kid. It was everything I hoped for. And so my question to you is, was there ever anything that you had in childhood that you didn't maybe have the opportunity to get, and that when you got older in life, or maybe reached a certain level of success, that you said, you know what, I can do that now. There's no barrier to do that you did for yourself?
Yeah, a lot of it. But so I was in Marshland, Missouri, which is where Walt Disney grew up.
Oh yeah.
Okay? And I never had a lunchbox
Okay.
when I was a kid.
Sure.
And I'm in Walt Disney's hometown, and I'm on Santa Fe Avenue, which in Marshland was the inspiration, the emporium, everything. Main Street USA in Disney World and Disneyland is Santa Fe. And there's an antique shop in there. And I go in there, and there's the Mickey Mouse school bus lunchbox with all the characters on it painted. That one that I would look at, like they would sell them in a hardware store.
Sure.
And like it was, like this is like, Indiana Jones.
Yes, absolutely.
And a couple of, you're like,
I can't believe it's real.
Yeah. And I see it, I go in, and he goes, $100. I plunked that $100 down.
So fast.
I didn't care that there was no thermos. I didn't care anything. I was like, and here's a guy that I designed, baby's lunchbox, Fraggle's lunchbox, all these lunchboxes.
Sure.
But it was the lunchbox.
That's so amazing.
Yeah. So I bought that.
Isn't that such a?
So I got that. Mr. British Knights.
Sure. Well, mine I can wear daily. Have you ever put lunch in your lunchbox?
Yes.
You have? You did?
But I did it immediately.
Sure.
And I made sure there was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, with like a little bit of Fritos. Exactly what Mom would give me. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. Well, thank you so much for spending some time and talking with us. I sincerely appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
It's very nice to meet you. If you guys want more coverage from Pensacon 2020 or anything else you can imagine, first, before you do that, go check out Mr. Guy Gilchrist. Where can they find you online or at a convention? Where's your next convention?
Everywhere. Well, the next convention will be in Charleston, South Carolina.
Okay.
And then we go down to Hill Country,
Perfect.
which is New Braunfels. That's near San Antonio. You guys in Texas know that already. And then if you want to look on the Facebook page, which is A Guy Gilchrist Production, it's pinned right there, and I'll be like everywhere. Like, you will actually have to change your GPS to avoid me this year.
You hear that?
That's how many shows I'll be at. So
You hear that?
come and visit.
There will be a town near you he will be at. Please check it out. We'll also provide links down below this video that you can check out. And we thank you so much for watching our coverage. We'll see you next time.